Hari Om. In today's nugget of wisdom, when we think of Adhyatmikata, spiritual practices, we come to satsang thanks to the new generation that we have it delivered on several sizes of screens, literally at our doorsteps. So we get the pleasure of listening to it on a constant dose. But as we keep gathering through our listening various tips of practicing this spiritual practices, somewhere there is a missing link. A missing link wherein we often listen to the spiritual discourse or the pointers given or the scriptural texts that have been explained so that we can deepen our understanding. It just remains as a mere theory that is definitely appreciated. It almost becomes like a wow moment. A wow moment wherein I come to appreciate, and it almost feels like there is a kick out of that which we are listening to. I am not pointing at the appreciation or a heartfelt gesture to say or recognize kya bola, what a beauty it was. But the sad irony is that having heard something intellectually stimulating, we often end up being at that stimulation, yearning for more such stimulation, but not actually putting things to practice. A mere intellectualization of the practice, that which has been pointed, is not well digested. So in this particular statement where Gurudev is very beautifully presenting what is spiritual unfoldment, the first half of it, he says what it is not, and the later half of it, in that same breath almost, he says what it is as well. Like on a canvas, if it is a lighter canvas, we end up using darker colors. If it is a blackboard, we use a white chalk. So almost like the traditional teacher using a blackboard, he first sketches what it is not. On that dark surface, there is this light of knowledge that is being scribbled or given direction. Probably because the first part, though we exist in, we refuse to look at it. The second part, that though we understand, don't put effort towards. In either case, it's a very beautiful way of presenting what the spiritual practice should look like. So he says in this particular quotation that the field of spiritual unfoldment is not a mere intellectual appreciation of the theory of perfection. That is not spiritual unfoldment, but a definite corresponding subjective change consciously practiced. What I liked in this particular quotation is in the later half when he says that a subjective change consciously to be practiced can happen only when there is an intellectual appreciation. That's a given fact. That should be there. But it shouldn't stop there. A mere intellectual appreciation of the theory and dwelling in the wow of that moment, in thinking, appreciating. There was one Swamiji that he gave the pravachan, he came down, and a few of his devotees, he said, वाह स्वामी जी, आज का सत्संग बहुत बढ़िया था, मजा आ गया. बहुत बढ़िया था, he was fine with it, but when he heard मजा आ गया, so he immediately turned and asked that gentleman, ये कोई जलेबी या लड्डू है का? Is it a sweet that you are addicted to enjoy? Because after having appreciated the entire thought process, the challenge comes in the later half, wherein that corresponding understanding has to be definitely put in our subjective change, and it has to be consciously practiced. Why? So the reason he gives in the later part, the last part, gain bliss before you offer it to others. We want to be definitely a source of joy to everyone around us. Even if we are not a source of joy, we do not want to be mentioned as being a pain in somebody else's life. That though is very sure. Like even if sarcastically or jovially somebody mentions, you are a pain in my neck, I don't think we would appreciate that. Why do we not appreciate it? It may be a fact, but why do we not appreciate it? Because we inherently want to be part of everybody that we are integrally plugged in with, around in family, in household, in the neighborhood, in our society. We want to offer two aspects inherently. One, I don't want to be the cause of pain, suffering, misery to others. Consciously, that is what most of us think, that I don't want to be a pain in anybody's life. And second, there is a joy in being joy to others. To give that joy, there is a purti, there is a fulfillment from inside, immeasurable one. So if I have to be the source of joy in others' life, it can only happen if I have it. If I myself do not have, my pockets are empty, what can I give? Like all Chinmaya Mission membership across the world, we have this habit to remind ourselves to the oath, we call it the pledge. In there, which is written by Pujya Swami Chinmayananda Ji himself, Pujya Gurudev himself, there he says, giving more than what we take and producing more than what we consume. In a sarcastic way, yes, we give more pain than what we can handle or take, and we produce more confusions than what we can consume. No, what he meant there was, to give more joy, I need to be established in it. To be able to produce more than what I consume, I should know the method. So here, in this, he says what it should not end up being, what it should be, and why it should be. Such a succinct, beautiful way of putting the entire thought wrapped in one sentence. So he says, spirituality is not the mere appreciation of the intellectual stimulation, but it is a definite corresponding to the understanding, a definite practice, and practiced consciously. See, when we listen to the satsangs, when we read great works, in through that sitting, there would be at least one pointer that we may have cherished, we may have appreciated, jotted down. For a few hours in a day, think through as to what does it mean? How do I try implementing it in my day-to-day? How do I bring that understanding in various facets of my life, and how do I integrate it into it? That is where I am translating the gathered words which might have given me a little enthusiasm, to transform it into something which is applicable, practicable, doable, and try implementing it. There are many times we will fall. So there is a flow chart that the understanding, I dwell on it, contemplate on it, do mental kusti with it, try seeing where can I apply it, take it out into the field of experience, experiment with it, come back onto the seat of contemplation, contemplate on it as to where it worked, where it did not work, how it failed, why it failed. Try correcting those. This is what manana means. That corrective measures have to be taken. It is not one size fits all. So I have to fine tune it to this system of body, mind and intellect and its interaction with the world outside. When that matching, fine tuning happens, it reaches to a point wherein it becomes my second nature to express from that platform of understanding. That is what probably I would define as a nugget of wisdom. That nugget of wisdom, when practiced thoroughly towards perfection, when it becomes my second nature, in my thought, word and deed, effortlessly it reflects. That is what it means when Pujya Gurudev says here, subjective change consciously practiced. And that is when I can recommend it to others. And most of the time, we don't need to be preachy either. I don't need to go into people's face and say, this is what you need to practice. When my thoughts have a depth of clarity, soaked in my own understanding and inspiration, when it reflects in words and deeds, it touches the other person very deeply in their heart. And that brings a transformation even in the other person, because what you are thinking, what you are saying, what you are doing are morally, ethically, logically beautiful, and that is why it has touched them. Therefore, they find a certain amount of inspiration through it. Thereby, I am contributing this joy to expand into others' lives. Therefore, he very emphatically says, gain that bliss before you can offer it to others. There's that song, right? दिल भी है खाली, घर भी है खाली. So, what can you give? Only khalipan. But if this understanding, which is having the depth of clarity soaked in that inspiration, and a transformative silence from that sanctuary of silence, when it starts reflecting, this clarity from within starts reflecting in words and deeds, it inspires others. And we used to find, even with Gurudev, that when we would be there in his presence, automatically our body, mind, and intellect is tuned to that inspiring presence. And I can be that transformation in others only if, or only by, the strength of where I am abiding in. So gain that bliss before we can even think of offering it to others. So 3 steps here. Certainly we should listen. Certainly we should appreciate, cherish the satsangs, dwell on it, and then take it to the contemplative level. Do the flowchart of trial and error, fine tune it, let that deepen, let that understanding deepen, and let it soak to become my inspiration. Let it reflect in thought, word, and deed, and thereby become the source of joy and inspiration for everybody that I am an integral part of in their lives as well. So hope the process is well established, and one by one, when we start making this transformation, pretty soon, sooner than what we can imagine, first few times it will be difficult. First few times it will look impossible almost. But first few times when we try practicing it and there is a change, that joy, that satisfaction, that contentment that I experience becomes the very reason for constantly improving upon, constantly focusing upon, fine-tuning myself, not much about the world around, fine-tuning myself, because it reflects in words and deeds, and thereby it impacts everywhere that I am existing in. So let's be that person who comes to give joy, not the person who goes to give joy. Until the next time, take care. Hari Om.